And so we were in Sarasota, and I ran into this man with these random glasses. And they weren't so random after all, because I noticed someone else who had random glasses that looked exactly like them. And it just so happened to be the same glasses that were on our season's greetings pillow. And then I said, "Sir, turn around, you look like someone I know." And unbeknownst to me, it was someone I know. It was you, Brett Walters. And I ran over to you, if you remember. We were in the mall, and I ran over. I was getting a little emotional because I didn't think I would see you. And then we decided to come up with a podcast.
Right.
A quite frankly, podcast. And now we're sitting here with a special guest.
That's right. Yeah, I remember that day. It was such a pleasant surprise. I turn around, you're calling my name, running up to me. We did, as I believe it's 1 Thessalonians commands, greet the brothers with the holy kiss. And so that was a really special time. But yeah, we have an extra member with us today. He followed us all the way from the tailgate on UF's campus, but we have Jackson here with us today as well, coming from Sarasota.
What's up, everybody? It's Jackson.
Classic.
Oh, yeah.
And the podcast at the University of Florida tailgate got such rave reviews that we decided, hey, it might be good to have him on again.
Everyone loves the Halloween Wars plug that you made there, so...
Be ready for another one.
Well, gentlemen, we're here. We're in person. What is this? Our fourth, not even, our third in-person podcast.
I believe so. I think that's correct.
How exciting. Well, how was your week?
Jackson?
My week's been pretty good. Just been working, doing some schoolwork here and there, and just looking forward to coming down to Sarasota this whole time.
Beautiful. Well, that's seems like a simple week. Any difficult orders? I know last time somebody ordered I can't even begin to describe what the order was, but
I can tell you, but I'm going to save the breath.
Okay.
I'll tell you. This week, not a lot of difficult orders, but I'll tell you, if 1 out of 4 people didn't order at least $30 worth of stuff,
really,
it was interesting.
So multiple drinks, pastries, maybe even scoops of ice cream.
Maybe even, yeah, perhaps 2 scoops.
Jeez.
It's getting unhinged.
Yeah, for real. I guess with the holidays coming up, everybody feels like they're off their diets. We're all just going to go crazy the week before Thanksgiving and roll it into the holidays.
That's my thought. I mean, I have the same thoughts as well. I do it in private.
In private.
That's right.
It's a popular belief. It's a popular belief.
They call that closet bulking, I think.
Closet bulking. Until you get so big that everyone notices that you're not
in the
closet anymore.
Then you're just bulking.
That's right. Well, for me, my week was a pretty standard week. As a lot of our listeners and viewers know, I had surprised Molly with tickets to go see Ben Rector for her birthday a ways back. That was supposed to be yesterday, Friday the 17th. So, I'm a very, I don't want to say diligent person, but I want to double check and make sure, hey, my tickets are good. I had already pre-purchased parking. So I'm going through making sure that my tickets are loading, the parking is loading, everything like that. And I get to my digital ticket and it says postponed. And I go online, I say Ben Rector, Orlando, November 17th, postponed, ? No news, nothing. And so I ask Molly, I say, hey, go to Ben Rector's socials and let's see what's on there.
What's going on?
Yeah. Apparently he came down with some sort of sickness.
He got wrecked.
He got rectored, as they say. And yeah, he posted a video within the apology, and he was trying to talk, but he couldn't even hardly talk. So I believe they're going to try to reschedule, and if it doesn't work, then they'll give us our full money back. But it's just so sad because, you you set up this time. I had contacted you guys before to come down and watch Stetson, so we had the childcare lined up, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work. And last year, I had surprised her with a weekend trip to Ocala to the Equestrian Center, the World Equestrian Center. Had the spa, the massage lined up, everything like that. Hurricane Ian hit. We rebooked for a week or two later. She gets food poisoning that morning and can't attend. So really just 0 for 3 on the birthday experiences. I think I'm going to have to stick to jewelry or something like that.
Yeah, let me ask you this. How does it make you feel when that kind of stuff happens?
I mean, he's human, To get sick is a very human thing. But then you look at, like, Taylor Swift and George Strait, and they never really seem like they're getting sick. Like, they're doing 365 shows every year, and they don't miss one. And you start to question, you're like, dude, are you really putting your heart into this thing? That's what I question.
Well, let me then ask you this. Do you think peanut butter helps sickness?
For some.
Well, not for Jackson, yeah. Jackson has an adverse reaction to that. I don't think peanut butter would heal you. I know there are some concoctions with honey and tea and other libations, but...
Garlic is great.
Garlic, yep. But I don't know about peanut butter.
Yeah, and that's what I would think is if someone has bronchitis, putting peanut butter down your gullet is not going to help loosen things up. Would it?
I wouldn't think so.
All right, so then let me put this situation in front of you. And before I say what I'm about to say, Ben Rector is one of my favorite artists that isn't an outright contemporary Christian or gospel music artist. However, hours after his postponement of his show, mouth agape, he comes on to the social media and is testing out and trying out peanut butters and ranking them. And I thought to myself, now, my brother-in-law and sister were supposed to see him. We were supposed to babysit their son. And I'm watching a video of Mr. Rector trying out 8 different peanut butters when he has allegedly bronchitis. So then let me ask you this. How does that make you now feel to know this information?
I didn't know that. Obviously, I don't have the social media to know that information. It's probably for the best, but that really... If you're not sick to the point where you can't taste anything, you know what I mean? Like, if you're sick but you can still taste, then you're well enough to do a show, Do a 2.5-hour show for me and my wife is the least that you could do, I think. And to hear that he's, laughing, eating peanut butter and chumming it up, probably in Orlando. He's probably in a hotel down the block from the Phillips Center. And he's got his cronies bringing him different peanut. Hey, go to Trader Joe's. Let's try their peanut butter too. That's a little upsetting. That's just.
Jackson,
I wish I hadn't known that. Honestly.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm just wondering who ranked number 1.
Yeah.
You think it was Jif?
He ranked Jif as an 8.6, number 1.
Dude, how'd I know?
You're the peanut butter man. You would know.
I am the peanut butter man. Nothing more I love than a peanut butter. Or a peanut.
That's right.
Sometimes I eat peanuts in other countries, then have no cell service. Perhaps I die on a mountain. Perhaps I make it out and eat a schnitzel. I'll tell you, I never died, but I did eat a schnitzel right after I used an EpiPen on a mountain in a foreign land.
Well, look, you get that EpiPen in you, and you really get that craving for a schnitzel.
You aren't lying.
That makes sense.
Do you mind sharing with our listeners what a schnitzel is?
I could be wrong here, but I think it is a fried piece of, well, this one was pork, but it seemed to be a fried piece of pork with perhaps some sesame seeds sprinkled on top, but I could be wrong. I'm not very.
And I think they flattened it out
it's
beforehand.
flattened out.
Yeah.
I think I'm not very well versed in schnitzel, seemingly German foods, but I don't know if it's German.
It's definitely German.
It's gotta be.
Well, Bo, how was your week?
My week's been excellent. We kicked off our upward basketball season, so I'm coaching kindergarten and first graders, and they're just a bundle of joy. Lots of fun. Shout out to Coach Stephen Graham and Coach Connor Coleman, if they're listening. Great assistant coaches to have on your roster. And quite frankly, I feel like we have a pretty stacked squad. I have a couple of kids that I coached last year on our team still, and they're special. You know, there are very few things that are more delightful in life than watching children you love improve in the thing they love to do. And you get to be an eyewitness of that as a upward coach. So if any of you listeners are, or y'all too, are thinking about coaching upward basketball ever, or upward, or basketball, or any sport, I would highly recommend it. That kicked off Monday. All right. Then I went and played tennis. Now, our listeners know I've been playing pickleball quite frequently. However, tennis has taken the back seat to pickleball the past few months.
Naturally.
Yeah. And it's like a pendulum, right? So when pickleball first started, I was out there and tennis took the back seat. Then I went back to tennis. Pickleball took the back seat. Now we're back at the other side of the pendulum. The balls have swung once more.
Swinging balls.
And then I hit the tennis, and I was like, nope, it's hard to beat a good match of tennis. It's just so fun. So that was the start of the week. Then we had our Friendsgiving for our life group Bible study, and that was just special. I made Chris. I spoke with Ruth, and Chris gave me the recipe.
Okay.
For their sweet potato casserole.
Mm.
Now let me tell you something about the sweet potato casserole. If you add the sugars, it's about 1 1/3 cups of sugar in a dish that serves 12-ish.
12-ish.
And there was a lot left over, because quite frankly, whenever you get 12 people to cook a dish, it's hard to eat every single thing out there. But I did my best. Anyway, I went home with quite a bit of sweet potato casserole. And what that led to was quite a bit of eating sweet potato casserole.
Of course.
And it was one of the great experiences of my life. But that was just the front end of the week. Now, why I find myself here? Well, we kind of talked about it. Ben Rector, rectored himself, useless.
That's right.
If we can say that. Perhaps he stabbed his customers in the back. I'm not speaking ill on Ben Rector. I think he's a great, fine, young human being. However, it is hard to believe that someone shoots up peanut butter down their gullet and then cancels a show because they have bronchitis. Now, Ben Rector, if you're listening, don't take it out on me. I'm just stating facts here.
Don't shoot the messenger.
That's right.
But I've been here. Jackson and I have been in Sarasota for the past 2 days, and they've been quite special.
Oh, yeah.
Getting to spend time with family. You know, it just makes you a little emotional. And it's the holiday season, so you're going to get to do a lot more of that. And you're going to get to spend a lot more time with the people you love. And it's just special. So, pretty much last week I said it's a 9 out of 10 week. I'd say this week it's a 10 out of 10 week.
Oh, wow.
Mm.
That's man. Well, you got the Friendsgiving, at the beginning. And then you follow it up with, it's friends and family is really, could be the short story of your week. That's good stuff.
True. I like friends and family. I love friends and family. And we talked about last week about Billy Mays Volunteer Appreciation Night. That night is happening Sunday night, which would be tomorrow because we're recording on a Saturday. And then also on Monday night, a little doubling up. They're the same events, just different people at the events.
Okay.
So, lots of exciting things to look forward to.
That's awesome. Well, Jackson, have you been seeing anything in sports?
I've seen a lot of things in sports. Yesterday, I think, we saw Colorado get blown out by Wazoo. And then, last week, I saw my Horned Frogs give Texas Longhorns quite a fight. Now, I wasn't watching all that because I was watching the Florida game, but I figured you're more of a Florida fan than I am, so I might let you take that one. And I'll sit and, be a little sad, chuckle a little bit.
I don't have to talk about the game last week if I don't want to. This is.
Do you want to talk about the game last week?
You're not. I'll say this. How do I say this kindly?
Just let it
You're
rip.
a guest on this podcast, and you're gonna come here and ask me about the game last week.
Oh, I certainly.
I
am.
refuse to talk about it.
Right.
But what I will talk about is another team that I'm a fan of that is rubbish as well. The old basura, as they call it, where I work. The Grizzlies are 2-9. I don't know how they won 2 games, to be honest with you, because they're absolutely terrible. Ja Morant is currently serving like a 3,000 game suspension for
flashing guns, yeah.
flashing pistols on his Instagram Live. That was kind of in the middle of last year. He did it once, and the NBA commissioner said you can't do that. He did it twice. Commissioner said, "Oh, we're gonna suspend you for 5 games," and then he did it another time. He just can't. He can't help himself. Really, he gets so excited and he's so into it, and he's on Instagram Live, and he's got a pistol in his waist belt buckle, whatever. And so 25 games, I believe, is the suspension. But they're the bad news bears without him. So that's kind of my sports update. Is more of a sorrowful look at the Grizzlies season so far.
Perhaps they should reach out to old Zach Randolph once more.
They should. He is, I believe, one of the 8 most handsome men that we'd ever seen.
True.
I think it was
True.
one of our first.
He's the bear.
He is the bear. That's right.
What are your thoughts on the speculation that has been seen between Ja Morant's apology and ChatGPT using that same template and getting the same result as an apology?
I wouldn't put it past him. And honestly, I mean, he's not exactly a wordsmith by any means. I'd do the exact same thing. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Everyone knows that when you make an apology on TV, it's your organization and your agent are forcing you to do it anyways, and you probably don't mean it. So,
that's true.
Why put any effort into it? Just let ChatGPT do it.
So you don't think Ja Morant's sorry at all?
I think he's probably sorry. I think right now he's probably watching the Grizzlies lose very badly to everybody, and I think each game that we lose, he probably feels worse and worse. But as for the apology,
I mean, they say the best apology is changed behavior, and they gave him 3 chances, and he failed at every single one. So,
well, maybe he can change after the 3rd try.
Perhaps who else did? Peter.
That's true.
That's right. Yeah.
Maybe the rooster just hasn't crowed yet.
That's right. That's right.
Well, I'll tell you this much, as from what I've seen in the sporting world, I saw Shohei Ohtani is a leading candidate to go to the Texas Rangers.
Now that is beautiful.
And I would say that's a dangerous game to play. But they just have so much talent. I feel like an organization like the Angels need them because they're pretty helpless.
That's certainly accurate. And I think, the direction of the sports segment of this podcast has really turned into all of Brett's professional teams are really bad. Packers aren't good. Angels are trash. Shohei has,
Departed.
essentially said that he doesn't want to play for the Angels anymore. As long as he doesn't go to the Braves, I'm happy for him.
I'll tell you, y'all, the Angels have picked up an incredible asset to their team, however, in Ron Washington. He's going to be an exciting acquirement.
We'll see. A lot of guys that show up in Anaheim, other than Trout and Ohtani, pretty much fizzle out. So
That's fair.
they have that effect on people.
I feel as if the Angels are a team that gets old stars. Think about Albert Pujols, absolute
Balled out.
star in St. Louis, and then once he's washed, the Angels come in and say, "We need a guy like you in our locker room."
Kind of reminds me of Al Nasser over in Saudi Arabia, only picking up not washed, but definitely older players who have big names, and not taking risks. Perhaps the Angels need to take a couple risks.
Look, I think we've taken a lot of risks and none of them have paid off, so that's kind of landed us where we're at currently. But
So how do you feel that all your sports teams are bad and Ben Rector is canceled on you?
well, this is really just a pity party. I think we could probably name the episode "Pity Party." But yeah, I mean, it's sad. But look, I like to look ahead to the future. You never know. I mean, the Rangers were bad for a really long time. They were AL West. It was who's going to be the worst in the AL West, the Angels or the Rangers, for many, many years. So,
Just turn a new leaf.
that's right. The pendulum, as you mentioned earlier, tends to swing back. That's the laws of gravity. So we'll see here in the next few years. I'm a patient man, and a lot of people don't think that, but I'm a patient man, and I'm ready for the pendulum to swing back. I'll say that.
I'm a patient man, but I cannot wait for this pendulum to swing back. I get it. I think it is. One of the faults that I'm finding in myself at this moment is, for so long the Rangers have been terrible, and I am taking advantage of the Angels' downfall and really throwing that on you, without recognizing how pitiful the Rangers have been for the past 12 years. And even when they made it to the World Series 12 years ago, you blow leads. I mean, that's the Texas way.
That's right.
And so I'm coming back to my roots, just speaking this out loud right now. And I'm thankful for this moment personally, because it's been a growth in my life.
Well, I appreciate that. I do.
Let's talk about the Florida Gators football team last week.
Oh, silly. We won't be doing that today. That's one area of my life where patience does not apply, I would say. But, maybe that's something that I could work on.
Maybe.
Well, have you watched any reality television this week?
It's funny you should ask, because the answer is yes. I watched 2 reality television shows, one of which was Winter House, which we may get into later, and one more pressing is Southern Charm, which we actually all watched with one another in the comfort of this abode.
We did.
And let me tell you, for those who don't watch, there was some drama. One might say a verbal assault on the last episode. And then they made up, quite literally.
Made up or made out?
I'll let our listeners decide.
That's
with
right.
discernment, of course. And this episode launches at the tail end of that episode. And what we continue on, I mean, this whole season is basically about, I'd say, the main character's Taylor.
Taylor and Shepard, to some extent.
Yeah, certainly. But this episode I thought was a little lighter on the drama. Now, there was certainly drama, but I enjoyed the royal food. They reenacted what Queen Patricia ate in Parliament in Britain. What is that? What is it called?
Buckingham Palace,
yes,
I believe.
Yes.
Oh,
I
yeah.
knew what it was called. I could not recall. My
Shout out
mother
Whitney.
and father would be
That's right.
very ashamed of me for not being able to recall that off the top of my head. So I publicly apologize for that. But what they do in Buckingham Palace is they have their servers. Each person, each diner has a server, and they come in and serve them their food. On their left side, of course, that's the proper way. And so they reenacted that, and it was quite cool. Now, that dinner led to some drama. And then at the very end of the episode, there was a bit of drama about Austin and Taylor's timeline of being with one another and playing hockey with one another, as we've previously stated. I'm curious, your thoughts?
I think they've been lying since the very beginning, and I called them out for it. Some people are a little more trusting than me, but yeah, whenever it comes out that they said whenever they went to New York for the reunion, that's whenever it happened, and then Taylor, I can't remember if it was Taylor or Austin, somebody slips up and says, no, it was like a month after the reunion. What are you talking about? And I can't remember who it was, but somebody, caught up on that. It was like, wait, I thought you said it was while you were in New York. So their timelines are off. It seems like they had crafted a story, a story that's a lie essentially. And this whole ordeal may have been going on much longer than we all thought. So.
It's frightening news. Jackson, do you have any thoughts?
I just noticed how Whitney would just sit down on the most random things. He sat on like a gargoyle one time,
Oh yeah.
and there's a seat right next to it.
Well, the house that they live in, it is like a castle. It's like a South Carolina castle, and he grew up in it. So when you grow up in the castle, you feel like you can sit on the
King of the castle gets to sit wherever he wants.
king of the castle. That's right.
Man, that's a
So, but yeah, Whitney's he's an interesting cat. But I
Certainly.
did think the beef Wellington
great
looked
call.
excellent.
That was Whitney's mom.
Right. Correct. Yep. But it's sort of an annual thing every year when she invites all the guys together to have a fancy dinner with the smoking jackets and everything else. And honestly, I wish I was invited. It looks like a heck of a time.
Have y'all ever had formal beef Wellington?
No, but for a couple of years now, I've been wanting to make it. But I'm also very lazy when it comes to that kind of culinary expertise. And so I don't want to learn. I don't really care to learn or to put in all that work if I'm going to overcook it.
That's fair. I've never had it. I've never tasted it. I've only seen Gordon Ramsay yell at people for overcooking the beef Wellington.
Where's the lamb sauce?
Yeah, where's the lamb sauce? Classic.
That is a classic. Well, you know what else is a classic? Is Winter House.
That's right.
What did you see this week on Winter House?
Well, on Winter House, there's a fella named Brian, and he is of Indian descent, and so he did a dinner which was supposed to conjure up thoughts of a proper Indian wedding. And so all the guests are wearing the purple and the gold outfits. The women are wearing the dresses. They have the jewels adhered to their foreheads and things like that. And it looked delicious. There was a lot of curry involved, naan. It looked incredible. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, I would love to go to an Indian wedding. First, because the outfits are so sick.
True.
Like an Aladdin vest. Like a purple velvet Aladdin vest would be absolutely sick. And then other than that, really, the only news is Tom Schwartz at the very end of the episode I talked about it previously. He had some second thoughts about, making a move on this girl because her name was Katie. That's his ex-wife's name. But clearly he put all that in the past at the end of this episode. So it seems like he's really going to go for it.
Yeah, I saw a little preview. I couldn't make out if it was Tom or not. But the context clues would lead to you believing that. But also we know Bravo is reality television, and we know reality television can sometimes create some unexpected drama. So could it be someone else that they want us to actually think is Tom for the moment?
It's possible, and I've seen some pretty dirty, Bravo edits where they make one thing seem like it's happening.
Some renderings, if you will.
Yeah, and then you watch it in real time and it's nowhere close. But I don't know. I think this one's for real. I do.
Well, that's going to be exciting. Young love.
Yeah.
It's an exciting thing.
Young love. I think he's like 40 though.
Well, and he's
Middle-aged
divorced.
love.
Middle-aged love. That's right. And he is divorced. That's correct. Yeah.
But their love is young. Their love for one another is young.
It is.
All right. Well, speaking of young, and speaking of love and generous love, there is, quite frankly, very little that is better than a soft, warm pillow. Would you agree?
I would agree.
Think about when you're sleeping, all right? Think about when you're sleeping and it's a chilly night. You turn your fan on, so your body is freezing. But you have a warm blanket and you have a cold pillow for your face. I don't know if there's anything better in the world that is on this earth, of course. Of course, we have the great Lord, who is much better than a warm blanket and a cold pillow. But I would believe and would love some... No, I would just say I would believe that the Lord made the hands that created that warm blanket. The Lord made the hands that created that pillow. The Lord made the fibers that go in the pillow. The very being of that warm blanket exists because of God's sovereignty. And so, I recognize when I am with my warm blanket, my cold pillow, my cold home, and my blowing fan, that is a gift from the Lord. And when we hear gift from the Lord, my mind immediately thinks of the Season's Greetings pillow by Flobo Productions.
I would agree. It's and you can all see it up here. It's really been peering at you this whole episode, and I bet you were all wondering if we were going to get to it. But if I was a betting man, if you're watching this on YouTube, you've probably already found the pillow online and purchased several of them before we even got to this advertisement, because it's just so gorgeous. I've seen it in a lot of homes, by a lot of hearths around the seasons, and it's really just it's perfect.
I couldn't agree more. Now, where does someone get this?
I believe Flobo.com is the best place to get this.
That's a powerful statement, and I think it's what, $18? I mean, you go spend $18 at the local Zaxby's or local Chick-fil-A for your family of 2 to get dinner.
Yeah.
And even then, that's probably for 1.5 people. So, get a pillow instead for one night of your life. Don't eat. Get a pillow. It's as simple as that.
You could just starve yourself for one night and then buy the pillow. It's not that hard, guys.
Call it a fast.
Yeah, call it a fast.
The pillow fast.
That's what we need to do.
No pillows?
We're doing a pillow fast with our listeners. We're taking a break from dinner one night, and we're buying a pillow.
That's right.
I love it. Well, talk about songs of the week. I don't know how much time we have left, because we could continue. We could party. We could do a dance party for our listeners.
We're currently rocking at about 36 minutes. So we've got all the time in the world. I'm sure our listeners love to hear that. They're like, God, they're checking their watches. They're like, oh, great, they're moving quick today.
All right, let me let me ask y'all this. We talked about it a little bit in previous weeks. What is the difference between sympathy and empathy? And the second part of that question is, how can we apply that to the people in our lives during the holiday season?
Jackson, I'll pass that one to you.
I have to say, I need someone else to answer that first.
Maybe a definition.
Yeah, that's something.
All right.
Words are something I struggle with.
Here we go. Sympathy is to feel for, right? I feel bad for you. I'm sorry you're going through this, right? So a crazy example of this would be if someone were to not turn in their homework. They were to turn in their work late, or they were at work and they missed a deadline, and you said, "I feel bad for you. I'm sorry you're going through this," right? That's sympathy. Now, if we take that same example and use the word empathy, that is feel with. You're feeling the pain with the person, right? So sympathy, you're not actually feeling pain. You're feeling bad for the person who is feeling the pain. Empathy would be you're feeling the pain with the person. You're coming alongside them, with them, and being in pain with them. Or if it works out this way, you'd be feeling pain for them, if this makes sense.
Well, I think that was a beautiful breakdown. I would say, how does it apply to, the holiday seasons? And we spoke about this a little bit, previously in other episodes, but I think whenever you feel empathy for someone, like you're saying, you feel the pain for them, I think that should drive us to do things and to serve people, how Jesus served people. So whenever let's just say like a homeless ministry, we'll say that. Instead of just saying, oh, I feel sympathy for them, like you said, you're not really feeling pain for them. But if you have empathy for them, I think that would drive you to want to serve them or better their lives in some sort of way.
I love that. I think the more we think about that, the more we think about the drivers in our life. What drives us to do things, And basing our empathy off of a desire to serve people like Jesus is the correct way to do it. That's eye-opening. It's so easy. Sympathy is a much easier tool to have in the basket. Because you just say, oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry.
Oh, shucks.
Oh, shucks. Yeah,
Oh,
rats.
Oh, narts.
Narts. I mean, you have all those words. And what do they do, right? I personally want to become a more empathetic person. Sometimes I can think as so much of right and wrong, and that blurs my view of the person, right? I kind of see a statistic rather than a people, if this makes sense. And so empathy kind of counteracts that. You see a person going through something and you care for them well. Holiday seasons, they're often the more talked about ones because those are sometimes the first big events in lives of when you lose someone that are hard. So how do we wrap around and care for people and be a people of empathy for those that are hurting? It's a great question to ask yourself throughout this holiday season, I think.
Certainly.
Jackson, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I was about to ask.
That's a great thought. But I want to pose a question. What do you do when you're struggling in seasons of apathy, where you just do not care? How do you overcome that?
Interesting. Well, I would say you're really answering a question with a question here.
Maybe I'm
Which
asking a question.
That's probably true.
So, number one, I would say pray. I would also say, I think when you look in the Bible, especially in Acts, that just so happens to be what we're studying as a group, life group. Everything they do is preceded by prayer. And so if you're feeling apathetic toward something, someone, I would say intentionally pray about them. Because that's probably the hardest thing you can do when you're apathetic, because there's probably a level of unbelief that anything's going to happen. But when you turn to the Lord and actually have faith in His plan and recognize your position, which should be at the feet of Jesus, which is already 20,000 times higher than where you should actually be at, I think it's a perspective shift that's needed, at least for me. Once you pray, then you act. You should act out of a motivation of the heart that is to glorify the Lord. So ultimately, your apathy for a person, I would say, is an extension of your apathy for the gospel.
Just wrecking folks out here, huh? Stepping on the toes, dadgum.
Well, that's a check I've had in my life is,
For sure.
why don't I care about someone? Well, the Bible clearly says you should care about people, so there's some kind of connection there that I lack belief in some part of the Bible that's leading me not to care for people well. You just have to examine yourself against the Word of God. Oftentimes you'll be wrong. Very, very often you'll be wrong.
1,000% of the time, is that what you were going to say?
Correct. If you have a contrary belief to the Bible, yeah, you're 1,000% wrong.
Look, that's facts.
Tough.
All right?
Yeah,
That's true.
That's an excellent word. And I think going into the holiday season, another question I wanted to pose, which is really a little bit more lighthearted.
Oh yeah. We do it all here.
We do it all. We go from one end of the spectrum to the other. What are your top 3 Thanksgiving foods that you are most excited about? Because this upcoming Thursday, and it's Wednesday and Thursday for me, it's going to get crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to lick my lips.
Lick the chaps.
I'm going to lick the chaps. And I'm going to go full force until I'm uncomfortable. So, but what are your top 3? And then we'll get to you, Jackson.
Yeah. Well, consider my chaps already licked. Or chopped. My chops are already licked. Anyway, I got to go sweet potato casseroles.
That's one?
That's one of the 3.
Oh.
Are we ranking 3, 2, 1?
You don't have to, but you can if you feel
I don't
convicted
do
to
well.
do so.
I don't do well with favorites.
Okay.
I struggle with those because I don't want to commit for the rest of my life.
Amen.
To a food, that is. Anyway, sweet potato casserole. My mother, she makes what she calls monkey bread. There are many monkey bread lovers who would disagree that it's called monkey bread, but every time that comes up, it's a point of contention and tension, because the woman just works so hard on the bread, and people are hurting her feelings. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm trying to stand up for you here.
Are you looking at me when you say this?
I'm looking at anybody.
Am I one of the attackers
I'm
here?
looking at anybody who attacks my mother about her monkey bread. That's always up there, is because it's so good,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so warm, and it's so fluffy, and it's so moist, and it's hard not to eat.
Mm.
And then, I think I gotta go chocolate delight.
Oh.
Dessert.
It's a dessert, and it's not in every family, but it is in ours, and it's a Thanksgiving staple.
Truly.
Well, that's a hot list, I'd call it. A hot list. How about you, Jackson?
Well, I'm going number 1. It's not made every year, but whenever Dad will make mashed potatoes, and there's the controversy of they're not supposed to have lumps in them versus they are, and I err on the side that they are. when there's a few little lumps of Yukon Gold,
Pulp.
pulp even, yeah, we calling it that mashed potato pulp.
Yep.
I'm a big old fan. Then I'm gonna go monkey bread, and it's just not your traditional monkey bread, of course, because there's no cinnamon, but it's just so delicious. With
Buttery.
some butter.
A lot of butter in
You
there.
put the butter on it and let it melt down, and then for the next couple days, it's your breakfast. You just toast it, and it gets all nice and delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And third, I'm actually going to use this time to plead with my father, as I have for multiple years, to just make regular mac and cheese.
Oh.
I would always... Now, I know it's a hot take, but especially in the Martin household. But I'm just not a fan of the baked egg noodle mac and cheese. And I've asked multiple years now.
You should get off this podcast right now.
I've asked multiple years now to have some stinking elbow noodle mac and cheese. And every year I'm sent with a no. But perhaps now that I've publicized this, it'll be a maybe.
Let me just share my thought. I know you didn't ask, but you're also the guest on the show, so quite frankly, we do as we please. You can have normal mac and cheese literally anywhere you go.
But Grandma's mac and cheese recipe is so good, and I bet you've never had it.
I have.
All right, well, I was wrong. I was wrong.
You don't have egg noodle macaroni and cheese, and I should have put that on my list. It wasn't even coming to mind because I've missed it I haven't had it in so long. It is top tier. Now, we have some listeners here. Amelia Gary, who... she's a hater. Let's just say that much.
Like
Yeah,
Jackson.
But shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Amelia because she took the time to make it herself, and then she delivered it to the office for people to try. I'm just saying, shout out Amelia.
Shout out Amelia, we're on the same team here. But third, I have to go. Sweet that casserole.
All right, we've talked enough. What about you?
If I get seconds or thirds, those three are gonna be on my plate: the turkey, the mac and cheese, and if there's any cranberry sauce left, I'm gonna pound it. So
I love it. It's a goal of mine to eat probably 4 times the amount of turkey that I have in years past.
oh wow,
I want to load up on that protein.
amen.
I just want to pound turkey down my gullet as much as possible.
Down that gobbler.
Yeah, down your gobbler.
Down the gobbler.
For the festive
Yes, I
season,
missed
of
an
course.
opportunity there. Well, I'm certain we are knocking on the door of 1 hour at this point.
51 minutes, I believe.
Oh, that's not as bad as I thought. Thank you. Our listeners are so faithful to our generous love. I'll say that much. And we appreciate that. More than words would ever say, more than actions could ever show. We appreciate that. Your faithful listening. And we had Orca on last week. That was a special time.
That was
Those guys are really fun guys.
And they should launch right around Thanksgiving. Get their first batch of orders out. But you never know with supply chain anyway.
It could be 12 months,
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What is a song that's been speaking to you that maybe moved your shoulders this week or allowed your hips to twist?
I reflect on my week, and the sheer amount of Jim Croce I listened to was unfathomable. And I think there's always a reason that artists or songs themselves get stuck in your head. And one that's been stuck in my head all week has been "I've Got a Name" by Jim Croce, and it's just a good tune. Got the head bobbing, shoulders wiggling, and it's great on a drive. Really, zoning out. We're zoning in.
Hand on the wheel.
Hand on the wheel. Not a thought about a thought other than driving. And he's a truck driver. So you kind of relate to him in that. But not really. But a little bit. The driving part.
Well, good stuff. Mine is Come a Little Closer by Cage the Elephant. Just kind of like you said, it's just one that just kind of moves my body a little bit. and I listen to it a lot when I'm driving as well. So, yeah, that's right.
Those are powerful. I haven't listened to either one of those, but I will on the Song of the Week collection for sure. My Song of the Week this week is Scotoma by an artist or band named IMRSQD. Immersed.
Okay.
I don't know if that's how they actually go by. IMRSQD. Scotoma. I don't even know what scotoma means, but here's what I do know, is when you turn the song on, it is funky, and you will want to dance. And that's really the goal, is a desire to dance with funky music. And I love it. So, again, our listeners, they may not care, but if you do, you can listen to all these songs on the Quite Frankly SOTW collection. The Satwa, if you will. Well, any parting thoughts from you gentlemen?
None that come to mind. Thank you for having me on.
Of course. I wanted to say I had a lovely weekend with the two of you guys. I appreciate you, coming down, even though Ben Rector was a no-show. He's too consumed, I guess, with his peanut butter inquiries. But, yeah, made a little bit of cinnamon rolls this morning, and it was just a heck of a time. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been an absolute gift and an absolute blessing. And for our listeners, we hope you have an incredible Thanksgiving holiday. If we can do anything for you, do not hesitate to reach out, because that's what we're here on this earth to do, is to serve you. Because quite frankly, we love you deeply and we love you generously. And we're going to see you in 7 days.